Hello and welcome to this third and final video for the Energy Security Policy class. This video is meant to outline the readings you'll be doing for this class. We'll go over the readings, what their broad themes are, and what you should be looking out for. With that, let's get started. The readings you'll complete are drawn not only from academic sources, they're also drawn from policy documents, reports written for Congress, and by energy organizations. These readings provide the grounding for our online conversations and background ahead of our face-to-face sessions, so you'll have a bit of knowledge ahead of engaging with the experts. It's important to note that these readings are not exhaustive. There are many, many more resources out there. There are many points of view. We're just getting a little sampling to give you an idea of approaches to energy policy and to energy security policy. Our first set of readings will try to help us think about what is energy security and how has it evolved, particularly over the last 3 years. Now, I want us to focus on the last 3 years because energy security really moved into the forefront and the mainstream after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in early 2022. Existing energy pipelines and supply chains of all sorts needed to be reassessed in a post-COVID world in which we really thought we had our energy supply chains sorted and understood. This also occurred during an unprecedented global commitment to clean energy goals, as evidenced by COP26 in Scotland the year before. This highlights the energy trilemma, which is a framework of 3 objectives that policymakers need to balance. It's often used as a guide in designing energy policy. So this trilemma talks about sustainability, as in how do we make our energy less carbon intensive to preserve the environment, energy security, which is just ensuring secure and reliable energy supplies, and affordability, which is minimizing the cost of energy to consumers. These 3 things come together in a kind of trilemma we talk about, because it's how do you balance these 3 and what is the most important when you can't have all of them. So now when you're engaging with your reading, think about the intended audience for each of these documents. How does the tone and the content change for, say, a multilaterally focused document versus one meant for those focused on their homeland? Members of Congress will often be focused on their constituencies and/or on their political parties, whereas a multilateral organization tends to be consensus-based, meaning they have to bring everyone to the table, including countries with differing points of views. So language might be harsher or softer, depending on who the intended audience is. Our second set of readings kind of tries to start answering the question of who does energy, approaches and roles. And when we say who does energy, I don't necessarily mean industry and suppliers. I mean those who in the policy sphere and those who want to influence policy. So within the United States, there's just no shortage of public, private, and nonprofit actors who have a stake in energy and energy policy. So these actors operate not only within the United States, they also have international contexts and multilateral contexts in which they operate. When I say multilateral, I'm referring to established organizations consisting of a set number of countries. When I say international, that means within the entire international world. That can be bilateral, that can be multilateral. It's inclusive of many things. The set of readings that you'll undertake for the second set is meant to make you think about who is behind the headlines when you read about a new policy or program introduced by the U.S. government. So when you're reading, I'd like you to pay attention to the emphasis when the documents are speaking to like-minded countries and how they address the public who might have differing opinions. From the readings, what other government agencies do you believe to be involved in energy policy? The readings you have are only a very, very small subsection, but energy really reaches all areas of the country. So there's many, many government agencies that will have a stake. Think about the environment. Think about the regulators. There's all kinds of actors. Think about transportation. So when you think about energy policy, we have to think beyond Department of Energy and beyond just international multilateral energy organizations. But it's really a good place to start to give you a background of how our policies are created. So these readings, again, are just meant to give an introduction, but be thinking about who else will have a stake in this. In the third set of readings, I'd like you to move on to thinking about policy. How is it developed and how is it implemented? Policy creation is its own academic field and topic, and understanding a bit about policy and how it's created, it'll prepare you for the upcoming activities we'll undertake. It'll also prepare you to understand policy documents and news when it comes to you, and you have to form your own opinions on it. These readings are meant to show you a bit of what underpins policy creation within the United States and the U.S. government's approach to who gets to create policy. When you're undertaking these readings, pay attention to the roles of political appointees versus civil sector employees. They work within the same organizations, but they have very, very different roles and expectations. So pay attention to that and try to understand a bit within a government body of what the different roles are and who's really responsible for creating policy and who's responsible for implementing it. One thing to note is that civil servants do not really get to have a public-facing opinion on the policies that they support, research, and enact. They are there to implement policies set forth by the political appointees who are appointed by the president to carry out their particular mandate. Lastly, in order to help us with our stakeholder mapping, we'll do some light reading on context, positions, and interests, and how we map those things, and how stakeholder mapping is an important part of thinking about the negotiating process. Now, we'll review these concepts more in person, but the readings you'll undertake will prepare you for our approach we'll use for the stakeholder mapping assignment. When you're reading them, think about what ideas you have after reading these about who would be involved in policy creation and what are the relationships between them, and how do you think they might negotiate with one another as changes in policy are proposed. This is the end of your video introductory sessions. I wish you good luck with the readings, and I look forward to meeting you in person.